Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishrealm and I'm back with another video. So today I am here to talk a little bit about a topic. I'm always here to talk about topics. That's all I do is just, I run my mouth. That's what I'm good for. That's what I'm best for. And so here we are. Y'all, I think I'm slightly tired. I think I've just been doing so much and I'm mentally and emotionally I'm exhausted, so slightly delusional. But let's just go ahead and jump into this topic, because if we don't, I'll be sitting here the entire day trying to figure out exactly what I'm trying to talk about. So I thought that this would be interesting to talk about because I don't know if I've ever done a discussion on this particular topic. And this is primarily coming from the perspective of being a creator. And so I also would like to say, I can't speak on behalf of all creators because all of us have different circumstances. All of us have different ways of being a part of this community, balancing our time, what other obligations we have. So I literally can only speak from my perspective. And I think that it depends also how much time you've spent within this community. So there's a couple of different factors that we'll dive into this. But I mean, the question at hand is being a booktuber or a book content creator stressful? And for me, the answer is yes and no. I think that it's always interesting when you have something that you're passionate about, it is your hobby, and then you go into this world of content creation, and then that's when things can get kind of, I don't want to say dicey, but things can get kind of interesting. I also think it depends upon what lens you're coming from whenever you are making content creation. Is this really just a hobby? You're just doing this for fun? Or is it a substantial part of your income? That then does make things a little bit different. And I can't really speak to that point. I can only make assumptions, and assumptions are never really good to make because it's not my reality. And Booktube is not a substantial part of my income. It does help. It does take the edge off of some things for me, but I can't rely on Booktube for, my financial needs. Let's just put it that way. I can't rely on Booktube to provide everything in my life in terms of, living a comfortable lifestyle. I really can't. I think that Booktube for me is like I said, it's a good edge, and every now and then I do have some extra coins to be able to buy, books that I've been looking forward to purchasing and stuff like that. But it's not really a huge percentage of what I do in terms of my bills and stuff like that. So I think for me, I've been a part of the Booktube community for a while now, not quite 10 years just yet. There are some people who've been a part of this community much longer than I have. But I think that for me, the stress of being a part of this community ebbs and flows. And so I think that I've noticed differences in my level of stress depending upon the size of my channel. And so I think that that's also a factor. When I was a smaller channel, I don't think that I felt as much pressure. And this is not pressure that necessarily any viewers are putting on me. I think a lot of times it can be, for me personally, it can be self-inflicted, where I am trying to hold myself to a very, very high standard and not really giving myself enough grace when I need to give myself grace. Because I will say that y'all definitely are the ones to say, Ashley, you need to take breaks when when you want to take breaks, and when you need to take care of yourself, you need to take care of your daughter. Y'all come first before anything. We'll still be here, and I really, really appreciate that. I think that sometimes for me and how I am in my personality, is kind of hard for me to process. It is perfectly normal and perfectly fine to be able to take breaks and to really take a step back from stuff, and I have done that before. But I think what makes it so difficult and what makes it stressful is that YouTube, like any social media platform, is based on an algorithm, and the algorithm doesn't reward you for taking care of yourself, and that's what makes it so stressful. And so then once again you come to that question of, okay, is this, are you doing this for fun, or are you doing this for monetary purposes? And I think that that also is a tricky balance. And I did a video earlier this year, which I'll link in the cartoon above, where I talked about doing booktube for fun and doing things for views and doing things to enjoy yourself. And people, you know, say, oh, you shouldn't always just do things for views, and you know, you should enjoy yourself. And I will say that like I said in that video, that is a hard balance to find, because at the end of the day, it's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back end of creating booktube content. There's reading, and I mean, you don't necessarily have to read a whole lot in order to make booktube videos. I don't want that to be an assumption that I'm kind of putting out there, because that's not true. But you know, reading, and for me personally, if I'm not reading it, I find it very difficult to make content sometimes. But you know, reading, the equipment, the editing, it's a lot of time that goes into the back end of creating a booktube video. You know, you want your viewers to have the best visual audio experience, and so it's difficult. And so you want your views to reflect the amount of work that you've put into a video. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's not disappointing sometimes when you have videos that you've put a lot of work into and then they don't end up doing well. And by the way, I got eaten by mosquitoes. Oh my gosh, I have so many mosquito bites. I literally walked outside to go take the trash out and they ate me alive. My blood must smell good. That's nasty. I think that it's hard. It can be hard to process. Like I put so much work and time into this content, and then it doesn't do well. It can be disappointing. And so when you're not consistently uploading, when you're not on some sort of schedule, you know, you're not making sure that you're engaging with viewers, which I'm horrible about answering comments. I need to go back and answer comments on quite a few videos that I have put up. It's difficult. It is extremely difficult, and it's hard to reckon with that sometimes. And that's, I think that can be disappointing at all levels. And so it is a system that can be stressful, the actual system of YouTube itself. I think that Instagram is a little different for me. I can't really speak to Instagram because Instagram really is where I really just kind of do whatever I want. I'm not really worried about an algorithm or like the number of likes I'm getting as it posts, the number of views. Like I'm not as hyper fixated on that stuff when it comes to Instagram. But I think that Instagram also has some of the same issues when it comes to algorithms. And so YouTube's algorithm is constantly changing. And so you don't know when the algorithm is going to change to favor you. You don't know when the algorithm is going to change and not favor you. And that can be kind of a stress point too. I don't 100% always understand the algorithm, because I'll have times when I have a video that it seemingly looks like it's going to perform low and something changes and I don't know what it is, and all of a sudden, you know, in the back end of YouTube, we can see how our videos are ranked. Like your previously published 10 videos, you can see where your videos are ranking compared to the other videos in the same amount of time. And so you can kind of get an idea of how the video is going to peak. And so I'll have a video that will literally be at 10, and then like 7 hours later, all of a sudden it's at 2 or 3 randomly. And so it's stuff like that with the algorithm that I don't necessarily understand, and it can be a stress point. And so you feel this need to constantly want to be successful because of the amount of effort that you're putting into the back end. And yes, you want to have fun, but also you want to be like, you know, I'm putting a lot into this. You want to see a return on your investment. I think that is human nature, and I think, in my opinion, it's flawed to not expect to feel that way, or to not understand that people are going to naturally feel it. To be honest, y'all, I think it's normal to feel that way. I think when you put a lot of hard work into anything and it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, I think it's normal to have those emotions attached to that. I think that it becomes kind of an issue when you place your value or your self-worth on it, because regardless, you're still a valuable person. You're still a valuable human. Regardless of who you are, whether I know you or not, the fact that you are sharing this love and this passion, you're a valuable person. But the algorithm can sometimes make you not feel like you're a valuable person or a valuable member of this community, and it can be hard. And so a part of it can be a level of stress. I think for me, the stress is increased personally because this is not a full-time gig for me. I have a full-time job. I'm not a college student. I don't have family around to help. I don't know if y'all knew that, but I don't have family close by. at all. So literally it's me and my child. And so I have that stress of being a single parent working full time, and then I do this in the background. And so all of that added together it's a lot. It can be a lot to continue those expectations. And I know that for some people, they're probably gonna watch this like, well, Ashley, anytime you can stop. And yes, that is true, but I love it. And so for me, it's finding that balance, like that video. It's finding that balance of, I need to be able to take care of myself, do what I love, and not be so hard pressed about every video being super successful. Doing things that I know that I'm passionate about, that, you know, there are people, there's a community within my personal community here that enjoy certain things. And I always use like my comics and graphic novel stuff as like an example of that. So yeah, I do feel like in some ways, you know, that balance of me being a parent and, you know, working full time and this not being a full-time gig, it's a lot. It does add a certain level of stress. I also think that, you know, that's an outside stressor with the algorithm. The algorithm is enough to stress anybody out. I also think that another stressor is not so fun interactions of the internet, which I think that when we all put ourselves out here, we open ourselves up to criticism, and it is a part of life. Everybody is not going to like you, appreciate you, jive with your comment or your content. Like, it's just not a thing, because it's not reality. Everyone that comes across you is not going to dig your personality, and you may be a really awesome person, but it's just not reality for all of us to, you know, sing Kumbaya and hold hands. And so sometimes I think that when you have a strong following with people who really, really like you, and then you start getting those handful of comments of people who don't really care for you or your content, it can be stressful, because it's a knockdown. It's a, oh wow, like you know, you get used to hearing the positive, and then sometimes people come in and they're critical of you. And, you know, I think that, and it's a hard thing for me to swallow too. I think that it's fair, as long as people are not, you know, I think looks are kind of off limits. I think people's kids are off limits. I think that there are quite a few things that I think should be off limits in terms of like straight dogging people out. But, you know, someone not liking your content, or, you know, not liking, you know, certain things that you read, like that, it's fair game. And I've had my share of people being critical of me, and it's not fun. I would be a liar if I said, you know, oh yeah, just brush it off my shoulders, it's not a big deal. That's a lie, because I'm human, and all of us are human. And so getting that criticism can be tough. It can be hard, and it can be a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're so used to hearing so many positive things. And so I think that can become stressful, in the sense that if you're not careful, you can start to internalize that stuff and really question your worth. And it can lead to some dark places for some people who are not able to manage that criticism that comes, and their emotional response to it. A thing that I don't necessarily struggle with myself, but something that I can see that can be a stressful part of being a part of this community, is staying with the trends and keeping up with the trends. And I think that for some people it's easier, because they don't necessarily need to read everything that everyone else is reading. I think for others it may be more of a struggle to keep up with the trends, because a lot of times that's the stuff that gets the views, and a lot of times YouTube and this community, because I'm going to hold us accountable, and yes, I say us, we don't always reward unique content. And it's, you know, people who have a different kind of flair on how they handle their reading, the genres that they read, the type of books that they read, and how they produce their content. We don't always reward that. In some cases I think we do, but in some cases I don't think we do a great job of doing that, like I said, myself included. I think that when it's on trend, it's viewer wise, it's easier because that's what people are used to seeing, that's what people enjoy. And so I think reading on trend can become something that's extremely stressful. When certain books come out by certain authors, you know, people may feel compelled to read those things and to keep up and to know what's popular, like, you know, what's popular on Booktop, what's popular on Bookstagram, what's popular on Booktube. Like, a lot of that I think can get stressful and overwhelming because it's like, I can't keep up with what's popular. I can't keep up with also like with what authors are canceled. What books are we not supposed to be reading? It can become a whole lot because we're individuals who have lives outside of this community. I think that sometimes being a content creator, it's easy to assume, looking at us, that this is who we are. This screen that you're looking at, who you see right now, is all that we have to offer. And honestly, it's so much more that you don't know about, that I think keeping up with that stuff is stressful because you're nervous about making a misstep. You don't want to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing when things have been discussed but you haven't been able to keep up. And for me, I can speak to that personally. Like, things that happen on Twitter, I don't really know about. So when there's discourse on Twitter, or an author has bad behavior, or let's say there's a book that has bad representation, or whatever the case may be, sometimes I don't know that stuff until weeks after the fact because I don't have the capacity to be on social media all the time, all day long. I have a full-time job. And so keeping up with stuff like that, for some people, mental health wise, it's just not good to be in that space. And so then it almost becomes stressful because it's like, well, I can't be in that space because I have to protect my mental health. But then I get stressed out because what if there's something that's talked about and I'm nervous that I don't know that this is a thing, and I end up, you know, talking about it or doing something. And so it's very, very nerve-wracking. And I wish, for me, one thing that I do wish about our community that was just slightly different is that we, you know, show ourselves and each other just a little more grace, especially with people not 100% always being aware of everything that's happening at all times, because everyone does not have the same capacity to keep up with what's going on. And so, like, I found out about a book that I'm currently reading that has gotten some really bad reviews, and I had not known. I'm not even 3% into the book at this point, so I haven't come across anything that has been talked about in the book, but I just happened to see that the book was getting really bad reviews because of representation issues. And I can't imagine having read that book and not, you know, because sometimes people don't pick up on stuff. And I guess in this situation, I'm not gonna lie to you, in this situation, this is pretty glaring. It's kind of hard not to pick up on some of this stuff that's in this book, but I can only imagine, like, in some books where representation may not be good, but it's not your lived experience, so you don't necessarily know until somebody with that lived experience comes out and they say, hey, this was bad representation. Then, you know, so it's that whole entire, like, almost walking on eggshells. And I don't mean that in the sense that people should be out here being disrespectful or racist, derogatory, demeaning, or ableist, homophobic, transphobic. I'm not saying that I don't think there's any place or space for that. But I think people making genuine mistakes and just not literally, like, I had no idea that this was happening because I'm not in this part of social media all the time. I think that it does create a certain level of stress that if you don't know, then I'm gonna make a mistake. And so I, you know, and like I said, this may not be for everyone. I definitely feel like this may not be for everyone, and I think that time plays a role in this. I have been a part of this community longer. And it also is down to person too, because some people are good at handling stress. They're good at navigating their levels of stress. They know how they feel. They don't need, you know, they don't have to worry about it as much because they have the tools. I'm the type of person where it takes me a lot to work through my stress. A lot of times I will actively avoid the thing that's stressing me out, which is not good, which is why there's times when I do disappear from like the book community in general, because it's like, all right, y'all are stressing me out, like I will disappear, and I'm not really dealing with it, which is not healthy at all. Also, I think there are things that are a little bit more stressful in my personal life that I just don't really acknowledge sometimes, stuff that's happening in the book community. I also think that being here for an extensive period of time, you kind of know the system of how this community works. So there are things that may stress out a newer content creator that are not going to stress out an older content creator, because you've been here, done that, you have the experience. And it's not to say that like you're any better. It's not about a value thing. It's just that you probably have these expectations of having been in the community for a while, that when you are, you know, seeing certain things, it doesn't impact you as much as if you're a newer creator. And this can be for someone who's, you know, you could be a part of this community and watch, but hopping on the other side and being a content creator is a completely different ball game. It's something that is a different experience. And so I think that if you're not used to being on this side of the fence, things can get a little dicey at first, but I think at some point, you know, we all get used to it. But still, even those of us who've been here for a long time, it's not like we're absolved of stress. And this community never stresses us out, because that's a lie. that's not true at all. We also do get stressed out, but I think the amount of stress and what we stress about is different. I find my stress levels now are more so from external things not related to the community, like for instance YouTube. Like YouTube's whole algorithm nonsense to me is more stressful than anything, because of the fact that I just don't understand like what makes something more appealing than something else, especially if the quality, the energy, the, you know, the aesthetic, as y'all know I hate that word. I hate that word, as y'all like to say. You know, if they're about the same, I can't grapple with like what is pushing one more so than the other. And I think for me, because I'm the type of person that likes to understand things, it's very Virgo of me, wanting to be in control of everything and needing an answer and a response for everything. Virgo spirit all the way. I'm a Virgo like through and through. And so I think because of that, it bothers me so greatly, because there's no answer for it. It's, you know, it's AI, and it does not always work in everyone's favor. And so it's that for me is probably the biggest thing, where I know that it's harder for me to take breaks and not put out content. You know, recently I've been putting out content like every like 2 to 3 days. If y'all haven't noticed, I've been putting out content or doing some type of stream or something every 2 to 3 days, because I wanted to see if I was consistent in this way, how would the algorithm work. And it does work differently. It does reward that consistent behavior. And so it's difficult, y'all. It is difficult for me, and it's stressful for me, because like I said, I have a full-time job, so I can't put the energy and time into my channel as maybe the next person who does this full-time or does not have the same commitments as me outside of Booktube. And you know, there's nothing I can do to change that, because if it meant doing this in my full-time job, like, this would have to go, unfortunately, because that's my bread and butter. This is what I do for fun. And but it's a lot to think about. Like, it's like, dang, I put so much time and energy, and but I also know at the same time, like I said, like, I don't have the capacity or the time to really be as creative as I want to be, because literally, I just don't like, I literally just don't have the time. Like there are so many things that I want to do, but honestly right now in this time, in this space, and what I'm doing with my life right now, I can't do it. I can't commit to that, or else I literally will fall apart outside of Booktube. And so trying to reckon with those feelings, it is stressful, because it's like you want to put your heart and your soul into this, and I do put my heart and my soul into this, but am I being 100% honest with myself, like knowing who I am outside of this and how creative I can be and how creative I have been as a person? Am I doing everything that I know that I can do? No, I know that I'm not. It's not 100%, because it's life. I just don't, I don't have the full time to do this. So those are just a couple of things. I know this is probably kind of random, like, Ashley, you just want to talk about why you're so stressed out. You know, maybe I did just want to talk to y'all about I'm stressed, and I just want to talk about, y'all, I'm stressed out. I want to talk. I need some, you know, this is why I need to be in front of my therapist, not y'all, talking about my levels of stress. But yeah, I did just want to talk about this because it is something that has been on my mind, and something that I've been thinking about, and how, like, I've been creating content and pushing out content, and just, you know, the longer that I've been in this community, this is something that I do actively think about all the time. And I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, I know this probably is a little different than something that I've done before, where it's really creator focused and not so much viewer focused. But, you know, in the comments below, what are some questions that you have for creators that maybe you haven't felt comfortable asking, or you have wanted to ask and maybe you just haven't had the opportunity or the space to ask? Like, I think that's a good, like, way to comment on this. Like, how do we balance? I know sometimes I get the question of, like, how do I balance being a mom, full-time job, and doing this at the same time, and reading as much as I do? And so I've kind of low-key already answered that, because I did a video of, like, how I read 200 plus books a year, where I literally filmed what a typical day in my life is like. So I will leave that in the card symbol above, just in case you're interested in checking that out. But yeah, if there's any questions that you've wanted to know about being on the creator side of this, or if you are a creator, like, share, are there certain things that you find stressful about being a content creator, and, like, you know, how do you handle dealing with that stress? You know, we can always use more coping skills. At least I can always use more coping skills. But as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notification, and I'll be back with another video soon. Toodles! Been watching too much damn Mickey Mouse.